Hey guys, welcome back. It's the end of 2021, the year that felt like it just picked up where 2020 left off. So we wanted to
That's because
do,
it did, Andy.
yeah, I mean, I guess that's how time works. Technically speaking, that is how time works. So, with that said, we wanted to talk a little bit about the past year of writing episodes and all of the fun stuff we've gotten to do, and a little bit about 2022, what we have in store, what we're working on, all that good stuff. So I know Elliot's excited.
Yeah, I'm trying to put it all together. We've talked about a whole bunch of different things, and I don't really know what it all means, but I feel like it's helping me get somewhere. And I that's I don't know. That's part of the journey, I guess, right? What
Yeah,
the fuck are we talking about, Andy?
that's usually what you ask me. So at this time last year, we had just released our Syria episode, which was interesting, and it's still actually one of my favorite episodes so far because I think it. At the time, we had recorded that one, and then a few weeks later, we recorded the Ireland one, and I've have a year out now. I think about like we were talking about this weird delineation of like nationalism versus like ethnic identity, and like how there's some overlap, but also um, despite the contradictions, like there still seems to be this ability for people to like categorize themselves that way. And despite me hoping and kind of expecting us to go more the Ireland route here in the US, I'm starting to feel more like we're going that Syria route, which is really fucking scary. But also, it is interesting that we were doing that exactly a year ago today.
Oh wow, it was. Yeah, I'm just looking at it now. It pretty much was a year ago. Yeah, yesterday.
A year ago yesterday.
That's crazy. So yeah, we've like I've said, we really run the gamut with different topics and trying to basically get our, I guess, not really point of view, but just sort of our way of thinking about problems and how we can look to the past or look to outside sources, outside the box, so to speak, and sort of think about things in a different sort of long view way. Because I guess on the day-to-day mundane, people aren't really on this sort of long view path, but I feel like it gives me like a sense of direction as to what's going on and like how to relate rather than it being like some unknown, some scary unknown.
Sure. Yeah, and I think like it's interesting to think about that long ago, like how much content we've covered since then, and like for example, we look at the data of what we put out, and we're up over 1,000% since then, which is just insane. Because I remember at the time we are like, oh man, if we grow like 10 more episodes a week for the next like X amount of weeks, we'll be at this point. And it's been cool to see it grow the way it has grown. And as somebody that was looking for a podcast that was doing what this is doing, or at least what we try to do, and trying to bring these things together, agriculture, ecology, and politics, and all of that kind of stuff. It's cool to know that it wasn't something that was just like in our heads as something that people wanted or were looking for. Um, so yeah, it's been wild to think how much content we've covered since then. And I don't know, Elliot, do you have any favorite episodes that we did so far?
Yeah, I have a couple. The ones that really stand out to me and the ones that I learned the most about theory and sort of putting it to practice was the Norwegian episode where we did the Norwegian farming. And then there was the Satayama and there was one more in there. Oh, the Monument, the rice episode.
Yeah, those were good.
Those were all really like interesting episodes that I found interesting like when we were doing them, and then afterwards I like sort of thought about them and I don't know,
Like
they just sort of
percolated.
resonated. Yeah, they just sort of like resonated. It trickled down, and I think I actually learned something for once. So
Yeah, those are good ones. I think for me, um, the like I said, cereal was really, I think, important considering where we are today. Um, the first episode I think will always be my favorite, just because I think it's the framework for everything. And then I think the "What's Wrong with Permaculture Anyway" was really, for me, like this moment, like this big breath for me to like get this thing off of my chest that had been building up to at that point, like almost 20 episodes or just over 20 episodes. And it was just like, all right, now you have this whole dialogue that has existed. Now let's have this conversation with this like this amount of data in front of us to like have this conversation, which I think is what gets lost. Is it's so easy in like Twitter culture to like just drop a thing and be like, I don't like this or I like this because, and it's like, well, yeah, if you put it in a couple paragraphs, great, but like, I mean, if you were to write out the content we've covered, we're talking like hundreds of pages, and after that you can say, all right, let's have this conversation and talk about these issues in a real way. So that
Sure.
was important, and it's one that I see a lot of people post in various places like Reddit and so on. So I think it really drives home a lot of important things that people want to talk about or haven't quite figured out the language to talk about. I think it does a good job of that. Oh, you cutting out, buddy.
Yeah, I thought that episode was sort of getting it off your chest for sure. I thought I thought it was really funny
You were my
because
therapist for the day.
yeah, well, when you told me about the episode, I was like, all right, obviously I'll just let you write this one, like like more often than not, we'll say. And we finally started doing the episode, and I read it through, and I was like, "Yep, this man has something to say." So I'm not really gonna object. I will interject and just agree, like where it's safe over here, but find my tiny microphone. He had this giant pop screen in front of this huge microphone. He was yelling into it. It was great.
Spitting, it was just ugly. So
Pointing his finger at me. I didn't do
yeah,
shit.
yeah, he got scared. I think there were some tears. I don't know. The dog started like whimpering in the background. Actually, that episode, the dog did start whimpering in the background. We had to take like a 15-minute break.
Did. See, looking back, the Havana episode was interesting. And then we did our first interview right after that with Malik Yakini. And that was super interesting. And like, I was very nervous. I've never interviewed anybody before.
Yeah,
But
I was a little nervous too. I was like, "What are we doing?" Like, he
yeah,
thinks we know what we're doing. Like, what is this?
right. And so that was a first for us. And I thought that was very fun. And that's sort of when it let me know that it was real when somebody was willing to like take the time and like just speak to us on record and like let us ask questions and talk our shit and do whatever we're talking about. And Malik was great because he had a couple of points to make, and he asked us. He was like, "Well, can we curse on this podcast?" And like, I didn't look at Andy, and Andy was just like I don't care. I was like, "Sure, yeah, it's our podcast. Say whatever the hell you want." Like it was really funny. So I don't know. That's when I guess it kind of really hit home that we were doing something kind of worthwhile, and I was never really like worried about it, or I never really wanted to like stop or quit or anything like that. It's just I don't know. It became very real when somebody else stepped in and said they would do it,
When you're
and
using
then
someone else's time.
right, and just like we had Nash Flynn on for the Troubles with the Ireland episode, but that was laid back because obviously we had hung out before and stuff like that. This was like a total stranger, lived somewhere else, and asked them to take some time out of their day and do it, and they said sure,
Yeah, and
and I was
also
like,
somebody that you can like Google and like has articles written about him and stuff. So that was pretty cool.
sure, I have articles written about me if you Google them, but please don't. It's embarrassing.
They're usually just press reports or jail reports, something like that.
Yeah, they call it the arrest log, and they
Yeah,
post it every Sunday, I think. Yeah.
yeah. It's been a few years since you've been involved. You're all right.
Yep.
A lot of that stuff was pre-internet. It doesn't count.
They had to digitize, son.
So Elliot, out of the interviews we did, what was your favorite one?
So many. It was great talking to Scott Crow. He was, I don't know, he just sort of took the episode and just sort of ran with it, and it was very easy. I didn't mind it. It was just great to meet him and just hear his perspective on things, like with the lived experience and with everything. And I don't know, just super interesting. And then I also thought Dr. Dan Rubenstein was great. We talked about grazing and stuff, and I learned
Yeah,
a lot. He talked about his work in Africa, right?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
still emails me every once in a while. He,
yeah,
he'll be like, "We've been under attack for a few days," and he's just dude's a wild man. I love it.
I liked meeting him. He was great, and I feel like the way we had just like an easy conversation, I still learned and pulled a lot without having to like, extrapolate meaning or anything like that. It was just very easy tone. That was a really easy interview.
Yeah. For me, it's probably the big one for me. I don't think it was our best interview, but it was like the most meaningful for me was Tom Wessel's because like his books were so impactful and a lot of the things he's done. Um, the interview I think was fine. It wasn't like one of those conversations you walk away with, like with you were talking about Scott Crow, where you're just like, damn, like I feel like a different person because of this conversation. Um, I,
It
I
wasn't
would,
really the conversation with Scott. It was the energy behind it.
yeah,
I think that really like set me back.
yeah. I
But
feel
sorry to
like
cut you off.
no, no, no. I feel like certain people you have the conversation with them, and it's like I have new motivation to do what I'm doing because of talking to you. And Scott was definitely one of those people. Uh, Dan Rubenstein was definitely one of those people. Um, Margaret Killjoy, I think, was definitely one of those people. Peter Gelderloos was definitely one of those people. I think those are my favorite ones. Peter was like growing up, like next to Tom Wessels, Peter was politically speaking probably the biggest influence on me growing up. I found his book in like college, like freshman year, and I was already pretty left. But I think that was the thing that pushed me from like just a like I don't know something that wasn't really defined yet to like being a very explicit anarchist. Um, and like it was like talking to your idols, and he was awesome. He's a super nice guy, and very accommodating. So that was super cool. So I think out of the first season, that was probably the one I enjoyed the most. Um, so with that said, I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about the future. So we've obviously been busy.
What year is it?
What year is it? Um, so we're at this point pretty far ahead. We're recorded through February. Well, not through February, into February, which is pretty cool. We're far ahead of where we were afraid of being because obviously for me the next couple months are really busy with work. So we want to get as much content pre-recorded before we can't record as often. And then in like April, we'll kind of circle back and end up kind of in the same place. So we added the commercials because I know one of the things from the feedback people were giving us is that the intros were a little bit long because we were doing our whole pitch about like supporting us on Patreon and giving us reviews on iTunes and all of those important things that are important for the show. But if you're listening every time, it gets kind of tiresome, which I get. So we started incorporating the commercials and we didn't want them to be too dry. So we started putting together some goofy ones. Mostly me dragging Elliot and telling him he's going to say something. And he's like, why are you making me do this?
Yeah, he drops them on me, and they're really bad.
Yeah. He
I'm just
he hates
joking.
my jokes. It's
They're so
fine.
bad.
They're so good. They're
They
so
remind
good.
they remind me of those horrible insurance commercials, and you know which ones I'm talking about.
Geico.
Nope,
I was gonna be very proud of that one. Oh, the
it's
slow
the one with
skis.
the one with the bird.
Oh, the
Liberty.
emu.
Yeah,
Liberty Mutual.
fuck them.
Liberty
Fuck,
Liberty.
fuck everybody who works for that company. Fuck everybody over there, dude.
Well, anyways, so we started doing these commercials because we thought it'd be something to break up the episodes because the content is pretty heavy, and we also wanted to make it so that you weren't listening the beginning of every episode to like the first 5 minutes or 4 minutes. We tried to really whittle that down into like just like find out more at poorproles.com or whatever. So
They're shameless plugs, and
yeah,
you're
there
gonna
are shameless plugs that are a little bit less than dry,
gotta
slightly
do it.
less than dry. They're like, almost dry, but not there. So we started doing that, and so far the feedback's been really good that people like it, or at least like it more than what we were doing. We've also started doing this integration of instead of drilling through like a bunch of lecture episodes, doing lecture interview. So that way we can talk about a subject and then talk to somebody that does it, which I think is also really nice. It helps break up the flow and it helps to get some guests in that can talk specifically to the things that we want to talk about, which is really cool. We are almost done with the agricultural content. So if you're listening to this after or watching this rather, after we release it, like immediately after, we're dropping two more episodes on soil amendments, and that's Biotic KNF and Jadam. And then we've got two interviews paired with that, and we're done with the ag series. After that, we're going back into the Prole models. So Elliot's favorite content, where we talk about some history and farming,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
we've got a couple interviews lined up, or well, already recorded, and we're going to Ireland and Spain and Central America and some other places to look at some indigenous farming practices. So I'm looking forward to that
It's gonna be great too. I wish we could actually go there, but maybe in the future.
someday.
Right now, we'll just talk about it because that's all we got is these here microphones, and I guess we're getting pretty like not good at it, but I guess we're getting used to it. How
We're
about
not
that?
terrible at it if
Yeah,
people want to listen.
I'm not even gonna judge it. I'll say we're getting used to it.
Yes, I'm getting
We'll
Elliot
we'll
very
we'll,
comfortable.
we'll let others judge. That's their job.
Yeah, so we've got that coming up. We're gonna run through that series all the way into April, which is interesting and fun. And then we're gonna actually do a new series called "A Brief History of," where we're gonna be just taking a look at some stuff and figuring out why it's so fucked today, and talking about how we got here. So I won't go into any more detail on that. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a little bit of a change of pace, but I think you guys are really going to like it. With that said, we also, if you haven't noticed, been busy with YouTube. So we've been pumping out a bunch of YouTube content, and we're trying to drop it every 2 weeks as long as we can stay on top of it. With different, basically mostly at this point, focusing on like soil amendments and trying to look at different ways to um, just show how to do a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about. So a lot of people, like, we get messages. We probably get like 30 messages a day on Instagram, and it's usually like, how do I do this if I live in an apartment? How do I do this if I don't have money to do this? Whatever. I don't. There's a lot of different situations. So with things like building soil amendments, it's especially with like KNF and JDAM, those are things that you can do for almost no money. So that's why we're focusing on that, and because that good soil quality can feed into all the other stuff you're trying to do. So that's pretty much the reason why we've kind of focused in that area with the YouTube content.
Yeah, because Andy's a cheap bastard.
Yeah, I'm real cheap, and I've always been cheap, and I think that's the byproduct of parents that are immigrants is they will make you be as cheap as fuck. Um,
Yeah, they didn't have garbage at your house.
they didn't have
Literally,
gar.
no, literally everything went no, everything went into the compost, and like everything else was like used for like a different purpose until it like disintegrated.
No, well, whenever the trash that we had, the reason why I never saw it is because my dad would bring it to an apartment building where we used to live to throw it in that dumpster because he wouldn't pay for the town pickup.
He's a
Classic
cheap
Frank.
bastard.
Yes. Yeah, so that's part of it. But the other part is, like I said, we want to talk about like how to do these things as accessible as possible for people. Additionally, we have started the Twitch series, which has been really cool. And if you follow us on Instagram, you've probably seen we've been posting about like the next 8 or so Twitch streams. And this is something that's just really cool. We're going to use Twitch for a couple different things. The first one is that we're trying to do this like how-to series where it's like it's a skill share. Like people, they don't have to be famous or like have a brand or any of those types of things. If you can teach something that you think is important for people to know or something that people are looking for, and that can be like, wool processing, 3D printing 101, anything like that, where it's like, hey, this is a skill people are going to need more in the future. It's something we want to highlight, platform the people that can teach those things, get it in front of people that listen to this podcast and care about those types of things, and we'll also like tag their Venmo in it. So if they spend an hour teaching people, maybe they get 20, 30, $50. So it's a win-win for everybody. People learn stuff. We build a better community, and some people make a little bit of money, and people save money trying to pay other people to teach them someplace else. And the second side of things is going to be actually a little bit more of Elliot, because he's the tech guru here, and I use guru very loosely because essentially, if you know how to do anything with technology, it's better than me, and therefore a guru.
Yep, he's right. I'm a guru.
He's a guru. So Elliot will be doing a little bit more on the Twitch. I don't know if you want to talk about that at all. What you've got in mind?
Well, okay, so this is all extra content that I wasn't we had talked about sort of at the end of last year, and it just sort of came on real quick. Um, so I wasn't really prepared to just go ahead and dive in head first. So there's a couple of pieces of equipment and stuff that I want to get, but I think range time is something that we could probably do on Twitch in the future, and kind of show people how to, I don't know, get their introduction to firearms from somebody who's not gonna, I don't know, you know the whole deal. I don't know how to put it into words without sounding like a jackass. It's too late,
Uh,
isn't it?
yeah, I mean it's okay. No, I think that highlights it. So Elliot's going to do a lot more of the stuff that I think you need the video content for, the gun stuff.
The hands-on
Um,
stuff. It'll be
uh,
more of that, but it'll be kind of laid back and easy going.
yeah,
I'm gonna be having a great time, and you guys are probably gonna be laughing at me. It's pretty much what it
yeah, and that's fine. I'm used to people laughing at me. Join me. Um,
is. I'm gonna
so
keep it myself.
so sorry, Matt's texting me because he forgot that we switched the time. Um, So yeah, we'll be doing some of that stuff. Right now, we've got we just did the low tech fungi one, which was great. We're going to do making kimchi. We're going to be doing some other fermented products, aquaponics, wool processing, automation for like greenhouses and things like that that you can do for your if you have a cold frame or whatever it might be. Basic mending of clothing, resizing clothing. Um, we'll probably bring on other folks that do stuff with like starting gun chapters of certain organizations, and I'm planning on having Shauna Hanson on at some point to talk more about tree hay, and a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, reach out if you've got something in mind, something you'd like to see, or if you have a skill that you'd like to share with us. Um, not lastly, almost lastly, you might have noticed that we've stopped with the Patreon content. Now that's something we're going to pick back up on. We'll probably do like once a month, so it'll be a little bit less intensive as it was before. But as you might have noticed, our plate's a little bit more full than it was when we started this process like a year ago. Um, Actually, yeah, it was just about a year ago. We started recording these in October.
Yeah, that's wild.
So yeah, so we did the 22 or so episodes that are up there right now. This is kind of part one for the new upcoming prologues. So we'll be doing a few more of these. Not necessarily just us like shooting the shit, but we'll probably cover some other interesting topics like we had in the past. We additionally,
Radioactive pigs,
yeah, I mean,
citrus fruit in Russia.
Elliot wants to learn about more radioactive animals, so we're gonna have to do that.
I
Uh,
actually don't want to hear anything about radioactive animals. It'd be cool if they didn't exist, actually. But
but if they're gonna exist, you want to hear about them.
I mean, if I have to, sure.
Okay. So we're going to be picking up on that. So I know folks, we like to give you guys as much content as we can, but unfortunately our time is limited because we both do work jobs, and I have a farm and I have kids and all that good stuff. So it gets to be we try to keep as much content as we can coming out, and we're going to continue to do that. So we're not slowing down by any means in terms of putting stuff out. If anything, we're accelerating. We've been dropping weekly episodes, and we are at the minimum doing weekly episodes indefinitely at this point. So that's pretty cool. We also are going to be starting to do some other video content, hopefully starting this summer. So last summer we had planned to do a 4-part, essentially like episode series. That was going to be us doing different things in relationship with how what agroecology looks like in practice. So this idea of like um, harvesting things that are wild while also managing managed landscapes and how those things can intermingle. So we went out and we went clam and
Clamming.
yeah, and
Got some razor clams and learned a whole bunch of stuff.
yeah, so we harvested a bunch of stuff, and you'll notice the upcoming episode that we're doing for the YouTube is using oyster shells to make water soluble calcium. If those oyster shells came from that process, so you're taking the food out of the ocean, returning the minerals back to the soil, which can grow food better for you, and creating that essentially like a circle of life kind of concept. So we were planning on doing like 4 episodes of this. Having never done video content, we did not realize how intense the work was going to be. So
I warned him. I
he
warned
warned
him
me.
for the record.
Elliot had a blast though cooking, so he was miserable by the end of it, but he had a blast cooking and
Yeah, it was fun.
planning.
I love cooking.
So we did record at least most of the content for the first one. We just haven't gone through and done the final editing and narration and all that stuff. So we're hoping to get that done at some point this winter. I would like to return back to that series and try to get some more video content, as much as it was a pain in the ass. I thought it was really fun. I thought it tied together a lot more of these pieces than the traditional, like just the podcast episodes does on their own, or any of these platforms do on their own. I think it's much more cohesive in that sense. So I hope we continue it next summer. I don't know if we will, but that's on my
I
bucket
will
list.
I will practice like storyboarding and basically organizing because it's really hard to get everything filmed, and I think that's what we try to do. And we just got to get like the segments done and put it together because that's how it's done professionally. So we're not professionals, but we are learning. And I don't know. I'm having a lot of fun with the whole process, even though it's a whole lot of work. And Andy's like a goddamn drill sergeant at times.
Yeah. So we're working on that. One of the things we're also kicking around is this concept of essentially doing interviews through video, where we would visit farms, especially ones in the Northeast that are more accessible to us, and integrating of the like I feel like you see a lot I think her name is Kristen Dirksen, who does the YouTube videos that are like she goes to like different places to see how they live and talks to them and things like that. And it's a cool concept, but I would prefer if she went into a little bit more detail. So I think that's kind of the idea, is that I'd like to go to different farms doing the stuff we're interested in, whether it's silvopasture or tree hay or any of the things that we've talked about, and really digging into the how and the why for the systems that they put together in a way that I think would be really helpful and instructive for a lot of people that are interested in this podcast. So, so yeah, that's kind of the future right now as we see it. Where we set some goals on Patreon for subscribers to increase content, because as we grow, we are going to have to be able to hand off certain parts of the job to other people. One of those is editing. We officially don't. I'm not the editor anymore, which is great. We've got Dom, and he's a friend of a friend kind of thing that is fantastic and does a really good job editing.
Yeah, he's
Uh,
great. He
yeah,
does
he's
great
great.
work. Easy
So
to work with. Nice guy.
so that's taken a good load off of my plate, which is part of why we've been able to increase all of these other things. And I think as we continue to grow, there's going to be other opportunities for that as well. And I would like to at this time, like Elliot, where do you want to be at this point next year with the podcast?
Um, I have no idea where this is going. I can't honestly. I can't imagine. No, because when this started, I couldn't imagine any of this. So I truly don't. I don't know. Uh,
And if
there's
yeah, if you want to know
there's
how,
I
if
I'm my mind's literally about to explode. There's so much that we have yet to talk about, even broach the subject of. And if you look at our introduction, what our little blurb or whatever it says for, wherever you get your podcasts, it says we talk about so many things, but we've only kind of touched like a little corner of all of the things that we want to touch on. So it's kind of hard to ask me where I see us in a year, because with everything that we want to talk about, we're looking at fucking 5 years. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and I mean
ask
it's
ask me
it's
ask me in five, and then I'll tell you something, I
yeah.
guess.
So Elliot, how OCD am I about the content?
It's rigorous. I think is the word.
So
You clearly enjoy yourself, and you clearly like it. So I'm glad you're
yeah.
having fun, bud.
So we have a spreadsheet that we use to track all of our episodes, and that's kind of our way to keep track of metrics, stay on schedule, and all that good stuff. So we right now have our episodes built out till 2025, just about like all the content we want to cover, and like that's not like everything's set in stone, but more of a we have a flow to the podcast where like if you listen to it each episode, Elliot,
Brian
spring
Lowry's.
spring springboards off the previous content.
Yes.
So, so
Yes, that one.
that yeah, come on, you got like four catchphrases. Keep up. You already used up two, so now down to two.
Oh man.
Uh, so so yeah, we have like our schedule, our vision for the next couple of years, mostly framed out. There's flexibility in it, but like Elliot said, I look 200 episodes in, and I'm like, we still haven't talked really about prepping. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a pretty core function of what we're trying to do is like have all these different things, and it's hard to if you want to like make it make sense, so you're not just learning these various pieces of information without any context. It's hard to get that far into the weeds.
Right. And I think the ag is a great place to start, because we can always reference back to some of this stuff as we talk about other things like prepping. When you talk about prepping food, like what kind of food you're going to prep, that goes back to, this previous conversation. So that's something to like build on. And then after you're done prepping, then it goes to, uh, I guess safety and defense, and then on to what other comforts and first aid, and then on to like helping others at that point, right? What else do you need?
Yeah,
So like that's sort of the trajectory that I sort of thought, but I didn't really think about that in terms of content. I was just thinking about it in terms of like topics, like an outline. And then as we sort of started to fill this outline out, it turned in from, 10 episodes into like, you know, years on a fucking spreadsheet. That's what I'm looking at now.
he thought when he punched out he didn't have to look at spreadsheets anymore, but here we are. You're breaking up.
Life, man. C'est la
Yeah,
vie, dude. I live my life on a goddamn spreadsheet.
yeah. So Matt may be joining us. He said he's running a little bit late because we'd originally scheduled to do this an hour later, and Matt's a college kid who doesn't understand time, which been there, get it. So
Hard. He's working harder than I am.
yeah, he's definitely
I'm
doing
pretty
important
sure.
stuff that's not a podcast. So it's important stuff. Um, yeah. Anything else you wanted to touch base on before we wrapped it up, Elliot?
I guess I will take the time to say thank you for listening. Everybody who listens and contributes and helps us do what we do. We would not be where we are now without your support. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. And I don't know. I always look forward to doing more. I just don't really know what that means. I'm just giving Andy more and more of my life.
Yeah. So I'm going to do a quick shout out to our active patrons. Sorry, this is going to be a minute. We don't give them a lot of attention as much as I would like to. So thank you, Miranda G, Norm R, Christina C, Eva V, Charlie F, Lindsay R, M. Digo E, Emily P, Brooke F, Sarah H, Chris K, Daniel H, James S, X2, Jack C, GB, Andy C, Gretchen A, Kristen M, Philip B, Tanner S, Yvonne M, Kate P, Zach D, Wildboar 666, Maddie F, Robert C, Eichel M, Amelia H, SHQ, David M, Sean S, Jade HR, Jess, Doug H, Bradley D, J Victor GM, Teresa M, Taylor G, Sean C, Tree Hugger Ian, Andrew B, Communism Turns Me On, Eric B, Lindsay D, AB, B Smith, Gavin C, Kate, Sarah C. Sorry, that's just one page.
Good
Thirsty
job.
Pleb, Ostrom, Christine C, Justin H, Lisa S, Alexa F, James T, Susan K, Benjamin K, James F, Lionel I, Brett A, Trickster J, Jenna Nolt, Robert R, Nick R, Kara, Avery EMCG, the Northern the Northern New Hampshire Workers Collective, Christina M, Nathan C, Avital L, Pat, Jacob, Erin W, Kim G, Mr. Big Red, Michael B, Dazia, Indigo O, Trevor J, Powerless Virus, Kat S, Ryan M, Mackenzie M, Janos89, Peter Y, Gavin C, Matt S, Aaron, Will Z, Alexis M, Lucas, Comrade Matt, Max Von C, Jack T, Michaela, Fernando, Carrie C, Jasper W. Loading the next page. Jindava, Chandler B, S, Chris M, Jesus Crotch, Jeff P, Liz White, Anna, Esther, Francesca, 313, Jack C, Nash R, Ian W, Hannah W, Brianna J, Kevin, Sarah D, Julie K, Aaron M, Sploof, Erica H, Eric J, Edward M, Will, Sam N, Nino D, Christopher R, Molide, Renaud E, Jeff C, Bubba G, Octo, Megan B, Kevin U, Tommy S, Mackenzie K, Nick F, Luca H, Sloan D, Alan S, The Revolutionary's Garden, Luke, Lucian S, Sarah G, Tim J, Devin, Jason O, Jesse A. All right, we're almost there.
Yeah.
Jeremy W, that trans EMT 309, Slop, No R Extraordinary, Serena H, Reed D, Libby M, Alicia W, Sarah B, Patrick G, Brian M, Jasmine K, Melanie, Thomas C, Benjamin R, Tim H, Tercille, Pontus A, Mark R, Makizim M, Alex R, Michael E, Like a Key, K, R, Ren B, Chris M, Margot, Patrick T, Haley, Anna N, Jonathan B, Sam B, Mishi R, Why You Do This, Emilia
Seriously.
C, Francesca R, Alex, Rasheen M, Ford H, Alex M, Dave B, Dr. Awkward, Hannah G, Ren R, Patrick B, Akathy, Micah, Sarah Beth, Michael B, Nate C. We're almost there, buddy. Nate R, Turtle B, Maddie R, Sally P, Dan B, Caleb D, Elizabeth B, Austin S, The Night Library, Max L, Jackson H, Jordan, Laura L, Nakitiki, Becerra C, CDW, Nick, Edward C, Natalie, Lionel H, Amelia B, Max T, Devon V, Bryce N, William C, James G, Jared G, Evan G. Why are there so many G's? EY, NOVC, Zach B, Adam R, Mike S, Brett K, Tim B, Eno O, Emma, Ian W, Tog D, Tez W, Sammy Fox, Ross, Josh L, Claire, Moosenstein, David Gendel, Laurel, Robert Blobbert, Sasha J, last page, and it's not even a full one. Elliot B, Teflon Billy, Austin C, Daniel T, Eric V, Camille P, Popsicable, Tony B, Aaron H, Maddie C, Nathan M, Liz C, J, and Sam Gates, the one and only.
All of you, thank you so much. Appreciate your
I
support.
apologize
And
if I
couldn't
butchered your
do this
name.
without couldn't do this without each and every one of you. And the next time Andy does this and you're listening, I want you to say here, just for fun.
Thank you. Also,
Okay,
last thing I
roll
realized
call.
after I was like halfway into that. I was like, do not forget. We are also working on a website. So it's been a little bit slow. It's
Yeah.
not our biggest priority, but it is something we are working on. That includes transcripts, a place to sell our stickers that's not like my weird Venmo and like me giving a heart to your response, which is my way of knowing that I've packaged your stickers. Um, yeah, that system needs to go out the window because it drives me crazy. So we're working on that too. So hopefully you guys see that there's a lot of stuff going on in the background, that we're trying to continue the podcast. We've got cool stuff coming, right, Elliot?
Yeah, and we're gonna try different mediums, which is something that is that's a lot. It's a lot of work, but I'm looking forward to it. It's a challenge that I accept readily. And yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think it's gonna teach us a lot. We're gonna learn a lot and we're gonna say a lot.
We always say a lot.
We got a lot to say.
All right. Anything else, Elliot? Are we good?
I think that covers it. We'll do another one soon.
Cool.
Keep
All right.
everybody up to speed.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess I guess our buddy Matt is not going to make it, but Matt is our video guy who does our editing, and then he listens to us do cover the content before we actually record, and tells us whether or not we sound like a bunch of fucking idiots. And that's always important, I guess. So
Sometimes he just smiles and doesn't say anything and lets us record it, and that's always fun too.
yeah, it just scares us a little bit. So
Yeah, it's great.
unfortunately, it looks like Matt will not be joining us because he has not made it here, and we are wrapping up.
This is
So
coming out. When's this coming out?
I'm gonna
Before
drop
the
this like literally, once we're done recording, I'm gonna upload it to our Patreons so they can listen to
Okay.
us almost
So
live because I don't know how
hap-
to do live for just patrons. I'm sure
happy
there's a
winter
way.
happy winter solstice to all my pagan people out there. It was a great day yesterday. I really enjoyed it. And
Looking
I
forward to it
guess if you
getting warmer and longer days.
longer days, I'm just so excited for longer days. I couldn't tell you because as the days are getting shorter, it's soul crushing.
Soul crushing.
Yeah,
It's
and
terrible.
enjoy the end of the calendar year and all that good stuff, and have fun, be safe, and enjoy your time with your people. And if you don't have people, enjoy time with your friends, and yeah, all that
Make good
stuff.
choices.
Make good choices, everybody. Love you all.
All right, bye guys.
Bye.